Hi everyone. Happy Saturday. How are you? I hope everyone's having a great evening. I feel like I am talking in a tunnel. I don't know what's going on with my let me see. Okay, I think that's a little better. How's everyone doing? Set up my little oh well, I might have to hold it. How is everyone doing today? It's just me, Benita Charles, for another episode of Singing Tips. Oh, hello. I see I have someone. Is that Diego? Hi. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is Benita Charles. If you don't know who I am a singer, songwriter, producer, writer, speaker from New York City. And every week I give singing tips to help beginner singers. Hi, Ron. Hello. To help beginner singers to become professional through my singing tips. But the tips are life tips, so a lot of these tips can apply to any career. A lot of people various people from various backgrounds have found value from the tips because they are definitely universal. So welcome to the show. Where is everyone here from? I'm in New York City. Hi, Roger. So where are you guys tuning in from? I just would like to know what the demographics are. Is there anyone here from the Northeast? Are you from the South? Where are you tuning in from? I would like to know if you'd like to share. And feel free to share here because this is an interactive environment. So don't be shy if there's something you want to say or some questions you have or comments. Feel free throughout the broadcast because I really enjoy the interaction. That's what I really like about live video as opposed to posting a video on YouTube. So please feel free to share. So if you're just tuning in and you're not familiar with what's going on, my name is Benita Charles, and I come on weekly to share some information from my experience as a singer. And sometimes it's from my experience, sometimes it's from things that I've learned from other people, or sometimes it's some things that I've researched. And so the show is divided into the show part and the business part because as a performer, you have things that you have to do to prepare yourself in front of the audience, and then there's some things you have to do to prepare yourself from behind the scenes. So we have a show part and a business part. In the show part, we talked about your talent, we talked about singing in front of an audience, we talked about writing songs and your image. And now we're in the business part, and we talked about your artist mindset or business mindset. We talked about marketing and promotions. This is the section that we're in now. The last few weeks we've been talking about a book called The Compound Effect. So all of the tips the last few weeks have been about that book by Darren Hardy. But now we're going back to the singing tips repertoire or schedule, and we've been talking about marketing yourself and marketing your products, your business, and your services. So I saw something today on my favorite show, and I think I told you guys that I love this show on MSNBC that comes on Saturday mornings here in New York at 7:30, and it's called Your Business. So the show is all about things that are happening in business, from a marketing standpoint, from a business company standpoint. You see people pitch their business, so you see how people present themselves, and if they're knowledgeable about what they're trying to say, or if they have a good story. But there was a story today that inspired this singing tip, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the band from the 90s called Hanson. So if you're familiar with that band, give me a thumbs up. Just want to know if you guys know or heard of that band. They were really popular in the 90s. They had a song called Bop. Boom bop. It was a cute little song. So they had a story about that band, and I thought that it was really interesting, and I thought it would make a really great singing tip. So, and it really is in line with what we're talking about and what artists should do, or people who have careers. So, if you're interested in hearing about it, give me a 1. I want to know if you guys are out there, if you're interested, if you care, if you don't care. So I don't see any activity. So I just want to know if you guys are interested, because I thought that it was a really good, valuable for people, anybody who has a business or who's trying to do something with themselves. So let me know. Are you guys out there? You're just watching me? Oh, well, okay. I'm not going to force you if you don't want to. But just know that you can interact if you like. But yeah, so this was a really good, it was a good program. And they always have really great segments, and their segments are usually like 5 minutes long. And if you go to their website, MSNBC Your Business, you can find all of the little segments that air currently, even the ones that air today. But so the band Hanson, they were popular in the 90s, and they had this single called Bop, which was like a sensation, and they were signed to a major label. They were signed to Mercury Records. The song came out in 1997. It was a big hit then, and it just catapulted them to the stratospheres. Like, they became a household name. They were everywhere. They were really, and they kind of was like they were very young kids who started young, and they got a record deal at a hi Shay, thanks. You didn't miss anything. I just started. So basically what this show is about, for those who are just coming in, I saw this segment on MSNBC Your Money, which this show I love, because if you're into business, hey Shay, if you're into business, you would really like this show, because they highlight all different types of businesses. They talk about from the behind the scenes. They talk about startups. They talk about how, some innovative things that people are doing in their businesses. So today they had a segment on the band Hanson. And they are a band from the 90s. They had a big hit called Bop, and they were really talented young men. They wrote their own songs. They played their own instruments. They were young, so they were like prodigies, child prodigies, really, when you think about it. But the reason why they did a segment on this band is because hi Ernesto, thanks so much for coming in. They are celebrating 25 years as a band and in the business, and they're still young, because one of the people in the band, he was 6 years old when they made it, so they're still young. But they did a story on this band, and I just thought that, wow, this would be a great singing tip, because for anyone who has a business, this would be a good thing to do. So, so they had the big hit in 1997, Bop. They were signed to a major label, Mercury Records, but by the time they got to their third album, the record label they were at merged to Island Def Jam Records. So needless to say, that was a whole different label, and they didn't really understand their type of music, because they were influenced by the 1950s rock and roll bands. They cited the Jackson 5, Chuck Berry, the Beach Boys, Buddy Holly. So those were their musical influences. And when the record label merged to Island Def Jam, they lost all the people that they worked with before, and they just they didn't promote them. And also I found out that they had a break between that big hit, the Bop, that big hit they had. They decided that they wanted to tour, and the record label wanted them to immediately put out more music. So they had like a 3-year break between when they like really became popular and then when they put out new music. So that kind of hurt things too. And then the new marketing people didn't promote them. So it just was like, disaster. So they ended up leaving the label, and they started their own record label by the time they got to their third album, called 3CG, and it stands for Third Car Garage, because that's where they started. Their studio started in a 3-car garage. So I thought that was kind of cool. And so then they moved back to Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is where they were from. And so they just their home base, they just went back to their home base. They did their own record label, and they had the freedom to put out the music that they wanted to and the music that they were writing. And also 5 years ago, they started a beer company called Hops, which I thought was so cute. It was a play on the hit song that they had. And so then they got into a whole different business with the beer company. And they had like a community, a community of people who love beer, and they started branding their brand. And then they created a music festival 4 years ago. It's called the Hanson Day or Tulsa Hop Festival. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's one or the other or both. But it's a music festival where they celebrate. Oh, hi, Nadine. Hi, Rich. Myron, thanks so much for coming in. So I'm talking about the 90s band Hanson. They're celebrating their 25th year anniversary, and there was a story about them on MSNBC, Your Money, or Your Business. And I thought their story was so interesting, and that we can all learn from. Hi, how are you, darling? We can all learn from what they did, and I thought it was ingenious, really, what they did. So they created a music festival. It's a beer and music festival. So they have their beer, and I heard that they also have a free song with a beer. Like you get a beer and you get a free song. I just thought that was so incredibly creative, because not only are they still making music after 25 years, but they created another business. And hey, how are you? They created another business, but they still incorporate their music in the business. And one of the things that they said about, they found that the beer community, and there were similarities between the beer community and the music community. And I was kind of thinking about what is that? But then when I thought about it, a lot of times if you're performing at a club, like a regular club where they sell alcohol, and I often heard a marketing person say that you're not a musician. You are, I forgot how he put it, but sort of like you are aiding in the sale of alcohol, because you're the entertainment. And when I thought about that, I said, okay, maybe that's what they mean in terms of the similarities between the two communities. Because when you are at a nightclub, you are, around people who are drinking. So they just had a passion for beer, and they just developed their own brand, and they incorporated their music throughout both businesses. Like the festival, they actually perform at the festival as well. So, and then they have their own labels. So they're creating their own music, and they're creating their own venues. So I just thought, we could all learn from that. That's such a creative thing to do. They didn't just quit after they left the major label like a lot of bands do. They reinvented themselves, and they created their own opportunities and their own businesses, and they incorporated their music in every aspect of those new entities that they created. So from that standpoint alone, I just thought this would be a really good topic, because this is something very creative that they did. And they took a situation that could have been disastrous by, because, when you're with a major label, you have that support, you have that money behind you. And that's one of the reasons why people still sign with, nowadays you don't have to, but it's a lot more work. And a major label they have the money to put behind you, because it costs money for all the aspects of being an artist that you have to do, the press, the videos, the music, the studio time, every aspect, all that stuff costs money, believe it or not. It does cost money. It's just that nowadays there are cost-effective ways to do things, but with a major label, they put you everywhere and they have the money to do it. So that's one of the reasons why people still want to sign. But so I said all that to say that they could have just said, well, forget it, it's over, our music is over, we don't have a way to get it out. But they created their own opportunities. So I thought we could all learn from that. So I have 5 lessons that we can learn from the band. So the first one is find a creative way to market yourself, your product, or your service. So by establishing their own record company, beer company, and festival, they found a way to promote their music to a new community of followers. When they created the beer company, that was a whole set of new people that was exposed to their music and exposed to the festival. So everything was intertwined, they're very well branded. Like their beer, it's the Hanson brothers. Hop is the beer brand, but everything is intertwined. And I just thought that is so brilliant. So number 2, invest in yourself. So they started with their own label. They invested in their art. They decided that they wanted to take control of their art on their terms, make the music that they want. So they got a distribution deal, and they built a new team, they got new management, and they just started over and they just did it their way. So that was number 2, invest in yourself. Number 3, find your own community, your tribe in your industry. So they had their music fans, they had the craft beer community fans, and they merged it. So they have a whole huge set of the fan base is even better. And they always had a global fan base. That's one of the things that they said. But they just increased it. They doubled it. So that was brilliant. And number 4, you have to promote yourself. If I didn't see the story on MSNBC, I would have never known what was going on with Hanson. But because of the press, I was exposed, and then I started looking up other stuff. I started looking at their videos, going back and listening to their music. If I didn't see that today, I wouldn't have known about it. So that was a lesson that, you should, if you have an event or you have a product or service, you should always invest in press, send out a press release. If you don't know anybody in the press, but, get press, do social media. If people don't know anything about what you're doing, they're not going to buy it, they're not going to see it, they're not going to experience it. So that was another lesson. When I saw this today, I'm thinking this is just happening. They had this beer company for 5 years. I had no idea. I didn't know about it. So that was a lesson for me that, hey, you got to put it out there, because if you don't, nobody's going to know about it. Number 5, don't laugh. Play on words, self-promotion, but never ever give up on your dreams, because they could have stopped. They could have stopped after that. They were talking about, I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about how at the time when things were going bad with the label, they were trying to explain to they call it the suits. They were trying to explain to the company, to the record company, what they were trying to do. They had recorded 20 songs, and the record company rejected all of them and told them they had to start from scratch, that they didn't like the music, they had to start over, and they were very discouraged. They could have given up, but they didn't. And not only did they not give up, they created 2 other avenues for themselves, 2 other revenues, two other venues, opportunities. So that was a great lesson that, sometimes things aren't the end, it's just the beginning, and you can't give up. If you have a gift, if you have something that you need to share to the world, you need to just do it anyway. You need to, I know you guys know I've talked about this, about myself, that I have a lot of fear about certain things. And then I just decided, you know what? You're going to have to do it afraid. I keep waiting for the fear to go away, but you know what? A lot of times it won't go away. You just have to do it anyway. And they talked about how discouraged they were at one point, and how, they just take risks and they just do it anyway. And it really was an encouraging thing to hear that, the people that you see that are out there, that are, major artists, they have the same fears that we do. And he said a lot of good advice about, you know what, you got to look yourself in the mirror. Thank you for the thumbs up. You got to look yourself in the mirror, and you have to ask yourself, do you want to do this? And not, well, I'll do this if this happens or if that one. And he said, if you do that, then you're basically not going to do it. You have to he said, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and you say, do you want to do this? Either you do or you don't. Either you will or you won't. And I thought that was really a powerful statement. So, if these guys are really sharp. And they're clean cut, because one of the things that a podcaster said about them, he said, you hear stories about bands like this where they had the major success, and then after that happens, then the drugs, then they just, fall off. But he said, oh, good morning, how are you? He said, not this band. They don't have a tragedy story like that, thank goodness. They don't. And they just stayed focused, and they just put out the music that they believed in, and it's working out. And now they're getting the press, but they've had this beer company for 5 years. They've been doing the festival for 4 years. I didn't know about it. I'm just hearing about it. But and we talked about last week about overnight success. There's no such thing as overnight success. Well, okay, I can't say there's no such thing, because there are some people who just get it overnight. But to be honest with you, I'd rather not have it overnight, because you really should work for it. And these young men have worked for it. They've been performing and writing and playing for years, since they were children. So you see the fruits of their efforts. We talked about the compound effect. We've been talking about that the last few weeks. They are a perfect example. Thank you for the thumbs up. They are a perfect example of the compound effect in effect. They have been working, and for years they've been with a major label. Now they're independent. They're putting out their own music. They have a business. They have a festival. But I just really thought, for us, that was such a great story and a great example of staying focused, of really, knowing yourself, believing in what you're doing, and not compromising, and just really putting it out there. So I think we can all learn from that. So if this was valuable for you, please let me know. And you said good morning. So where are you from? Are you overseas? Because it's in the evening time here where I am. So good morning to you. Good evening to everyone. I hope that you're having a great Saturday. I hope that you are finding value out of this. Hi, Tyrone. Thanks so much for coming in. I hope you're enjoying New York City and all the. It's so, New York is a place that you got to be here for at least a month. But I hope you have having a happy anniversary and you're enjoying the city. Welcome to Singing Tips. My name is Benita Charles. For those of you who are new to the show, I come on every week and I give singing tips to beginner singers to help them become professional, but also for anyone who has a dream, who has a gift, who has a talent, and you just need some encouragement, or you need some words, maybe something that'll remind you of what you need to do. But that's what this show is all about. And today we are talking about the band Hanson. It's a band from the 90s. They are a perfect example of staying focused and branding, because we were talking about branding and marketing. A perfect example of branding, because their band Hanson, their brand is all through all their businesses. Their music is the band Hanson, and their three brothers from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they are celebrating their 25th year anniversary this year. And 25 years, they've been doing this for 25 years, and they're still creating music. They're actually getting ready to do a tour. So they're still at it. They're still doing it. It's not overnight. I mean, it takes time. They were very young when they started and when they got famous, but they never stopped. They're still doing it, and they're doing it on their terms. That's what's so wonderful about it, and that's encouraging for everyone. We can do it on our terms. We don't have to be beholden to anyone, but you just have to be focused, and you just have to know who you are, and you have to know what you want, and you have to believe. But it's just encouragement to everyone. So I'll give you a recap if you're just coming in. So I have 5 lessons that I learned from them, because they have a beer company. Well, they have their music. They have a record label, 3CG, which stands for 3-Car Garage. That was their first. That's where they recorded their first independent record. So they call their label 3CG, which is really cool. They started a beer company about 5 years ago, the Hanson brothers, and it's Hops, because they had their single Bop, which, hey Jean, thanks so much for coming in. They had their single Bop. So I don't know if you guys remember that song from the 90s. It was popular in 1997. I'm talking about the band Hanson. So their beer company, their product is Hops, which is, they said it's a really silly word, and they just thought it was a funny word, and they thought it was cool. So, and then 4 years ago, they started a beer and music festival. So they have and they perform at the festival too. So their music is incorporated in every aspect of their business. And I heard that when you get a bottle of beer, you get a free song. So if that's not branding and marketing and promotion, I don't know what is. I thought it was brilliant, really, to be honest with you. Absolutely brilliant. So they're celebrating 25 years of music, and they have it's so funny, because between the 3 of them, they have 12 kids. One has 5 kids, one has 3 kids. So it's just so really cool to hear a successful story where there's, you don't hear the normal things that happens to a lot of these bands. And it's just really, and then the fact that they were focused and they just decided, we want to do our music on our terms, and they became independent. So the 5 lessons that I just want to recap, the 5 lessons that we all can learn from Hanson. Find a creative way to market yourself, your product, your service. So by establishing their own companies, their record label, their beer, the festival, they found a way to promote their music in a very creative way. And they also found a new fan base with the beer community, the fans that they have through their beer community. They found a whole new set of fans, and their product, their music is all incorporated through everything. So I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Number 2, invest in yourself by starting their own record label. They decided to take their music in their own hands, and they found a distributor. They got a distribution deal. They built a team. They built a new team, and they found new management. Number 3, find your community, your tribe. So they had a global, or they have a global fan base, a music fan base, but now they have the craft beer community. So now their fan base is even larger. So number 4, you have to promote yourself. I found out about them today on MSNBC Your Business. If they weren't on there, I wouldn't have known about it. And that was a big lesson, because they've had this beer company for 5 years. I'm just now finding out about it. They had the music festival for the last 4 years. I didn't know about it. If I didn't see it today on MSNBC, I wouldn't have known about it. So that's a lesson, that if you have a service, a product, or something that you're trying to do, you need to get it out there, because if people don't know about it, it's not going to go anywhere. Hi, Alan. Thanks so much for coming in. So I have here, you need to put out a press release. You need to get pressed, like they got pressed. They probably have a publicist, because a lot of times you really need a publicist to get in, like, major, they're a major artist, but to get major press. Social media, of course, your email list, your fans, your fan base, so whatever, or Facebook groups. However, you have to promote yourself. That was number 4. Number 5, play on words, never ever give up on your dreams. And speaking of never ever giving up, my co-writer on the song, Jean, is here. So Jean, put in an emoji to let everyone know who you are. She's a talented songwriter, and she has music as well. But so never ever give up on your dreams. The video is on YouTube. Thanks for the love on that, by the way. I think we're over 800 views now, so thank you guys so much for your support. But never ever give up. That band, Hanson, they didn't give up on their dreams. They were signed to a major label, and most people, if they get dropped or leave, I don't think they got dropped, they left the label. If you leave if you lose that major backing, most people crumble and just say they give up. They didn't give up. They reinvented themselves. They decided they're going to take their career in their own hands. They created their own record label. They created their beer company, and now they have a music festival. You know how many people want to perform at festivals? They created their own. So that's why I thought this was like such a great story for Singing Tips, because this is exactly what we're talking about here. Singing Tips, this show was created to help you think about the steps that you need to take to move your career forward. And when you hear stories like this, it's very encouraging, and also to help you think outside the box. Who would have ever thought that this band would have taken that direction? Such a positive direction, and such an empowering direction. And I think that we all can learn from that. There's more than one way to do this. There's more than one way to do anything. And the more creative you can think in terms of how you want to proceed, the better. So I just thought that this was such an encouraging story for all of us. And if you're interested, it was on MSNBC Your Business. They have a website. If you Google MSNBC Your Business, the link comes up, and this actual segment is on the website now, where they talked about the band. They highlighted the band, and they talked about what the band was doing. They have other stories on there. There was a good segment today about how some businesses, there was a lady, she has a hair salon, and she the way she processes her business is like the auto industry. It's like how in the auto industry they have the assembly line, and they have And so she learned how to make her business more efficient. So it's stories like that. It's a really good show, like especially if you like business. They have all kinds of segments and just tips on in terms of if you have your business. But I just thought this particular story on the band Hanson was perfect for singing tips. It's about a band, but it's just the way they decided how to proceed with their business. I thought we all can learn from that and just think outside the box, be creative, use, promote, and whatever you create. If you create another business, make sure those businesses intertwine and you can promote, cross promote, that kind of thing. Branding, their branding was on point. Their brand is all through all their businesses and all the entities and everything that they do. So I just thought that was tops. Something that we can all learn from. So thank you guys for coming in. I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope that you learned something today. If you did, please let me know. I really like to know if there's anything that you like for me to discuss or we could discuss. Let me know. I don't want to do all the talking here, so if anyone has any comments or anything that they want to share, please feel free. This is a community. I feel like I've gained some new friends through singing tips throughout the weeks of doing this. I thank you guys so much for coming in, and I thank you so much for your attention. I hope that it was helpful. I was so excited. I was so excited about this show today because I just thought this was such a brilliant story, and they're such a positive band, and it's just what they're doing. They really believe in what they're doing, and they have a good community. And they serve, and they do charity work as well. So it's just a really good, feel-good story, and good to see people who are making a difference with their talents, and I just thought that we can all learn from that, especially just making sure that we never give up, and we just put ourselves out there, and you can do it. You can do this, and whatever it is that you're trying to do, the world needs it. I mean, we need it more now than ever. So I want to encourage you all to just stay focused and keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for your encouragement. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for supporting the video again. It's on YouTube. Never ever give up. Please follow me on Spotify. I need to build up my Spotify profile. So find me on Spotify. Please add me to your playlist. Please like my profile. I want to thank you guys so much for your support. I hope that this was helpful. As I said before, the segment was on MSNBC, Your Business, about Hanson, the band. You could Google them too, because there's a lot of articles about it. But, just encouragement for us all to think outside the box, and just keep putting it out there, and you'll get there. So, and we're going to get there together, because as I'm teaching you guys, I'm working as myself, and started implementing a few things myself. But so thank you guys so much. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to give you back your evening. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you again for another episode of Singing Tips next week. But thanks for your attention, and I'll see you next time. Take care.